Hey guys, it is Rachel Feldman here at the Healthy Hustle Podcast, where we share all the truths behind the scenes, what it takes to build our business, and also where we struggle. So I'm extremely excited to have my good friend Sharon on. She's going to be deep diving into her business, what worked in the beginning, what's working now, what's not working. And she is also a functional medicine practitioner. So she's going to be sharing how she infuses lab testing, but also her process. And I think that's really important, guys, because I've talked to you a lot about always building this process in your business so that it's sustainable and you're not reinventing the wheel constantly. It's called rinse and repeat what you know works. So Sharon, with that big intro, can you tell everyone a little about yourself?
Well, thanks for that amazing intro. It's so great to be here. And I just love how our connection has just, transformed over the couple of years since I met you through functional diagnostic nutrition. So thanks for having me. And quite simply, I was the person who was type A personality, always had to try to color in the lines, hated doing it. I was in banking and finance, 1 + 1 always equals 2, and get married, have kids. One of my kids was diagnosed with Crohn's. At the same time, I was going through a divorce. I knew nothing about health and nutrition. 5 hours on Dr. Google, trying to figure out, what am I doing? How can I help him? And I decided I had to go back to grad school and get a master's in clinical nutrition and then get certified as a functional nutritionist because I wasn't getting the answers. And I'm that type of person. I used to be a commercial lender, so I always analyzed, and I needed to understand. And interestingly, during that process, I didn't realize I had my own health issues that I had compartmentalized throughout my life that made me feel like I'm normal and I'm healthy. And I wasn't. My body was sending me signals that I had just not paid attention to. And through it, had no intention of starting a business. But as a result, a business grew from it because of my passion of understanding and just wanting to help others.
I think I'm like, I have chills. I love that you brought up your child because so many coaches, no matter what level, degree of certification or schooling, sometimes we feel like we don't have a story because we haven't experienced it. And I think the biggest thing is to look in our own life, find what inspires us. And that story, very similar to myself, I knew I had all these issues, but it was my kids. It was seeing what I had passed down, seeing a lot of what I call my family genetic history infused into their cells, spiritually, emotionally, metaphysically, all of that. And I said, I wish I would have known back in the day when I was in pre-pregnancy, all these things. And that was my big drive. So my passion always trumped my fear because I was like, I need to educate every woman, every person. So I love that you brought that up because it really gives coaches this permission that it doesn't always have to be your story. Like, look around, be inspired by what you desire to change in this world.
Exactly. And now it's become this like healthcare disruptor, just like getting people to disrupt the status quo. We're not Stepford wives. We actually all do have a story, and it might not be a direct health related, but something in that has actually it participated and driven us to this. So there's always a story. There's always something there. And we're going to conquer the world.
I think that's so important because I always say to coaches, I built my business ass backwards, similar to you.
Oh my God, yes.
I had been in commercial real estate, so I understood business, thankfully. But I do feel that when you get into the wellness industry, that's different than saying, I sell a building or I sell a supplement, or you're really sharing this process that you had to take to either help, your child or help yourself. So with that being said, can you take us back to the beginning of your business? Because the big, like, what would I call this? The big thing in this industry is that everyone believes they need to start online. They need to have this 3-month program. They need to have, and I keep saying to people, use blueprints as an examples, but you truly have to find that intuitive business that fits for you.
Oh
So
my God, that
share
is
with us.
so true. Besides the fact that when it came to anything technical online, talk about stress, I'm like, I can't even do it. It's like, no. As I was saying, this kind of grew organically because as I started to make shifts in our family, I mean, I thought a bran muffin and coffee was healthy and iceberg lettuce. And I found that as we started to shift things at home, my mood changed, my whole being changed, my symptoms went away, as I was helping my son, everything. So people started saying, what are you doing? And I would just like kind of start sharing things. And I just had this idea. I kept hearing, and here's the thing, it's like you hear these voices in your head, pay attention, right? Because they're talking to us, but it's almost like something bigger that's sharing this repeated information. It was like, do a free lunch and learn. And I was thinking, what? I didn't even know what that was, but I started asking my friends to just invite friends over and let's just talk about what questions they have. I had no plan. I had nothing. I just wanted to share information of what I was doing because people were asking me. And the more that I did that, people were like, wow, that's just great. Little tidbits that I thought were so common sense, like weren't. And that's the thing is like, we sometimes overcomplicate it. We need to keep it simple in simple language. So the more I did that, then people started saying, what else do you have? And I'd be like, what do you want? I don't know. And they would say, whatever it was. I'm like, well, back then it was like, well, how about a teleseminar? Would you be interested in?
I love that you say that because when people are like, did you, do a webinar? I said, that didn't exist. When I started in it's 2010, we did teleclasses. And I love that you're bringing us, I keep saying, go back to the basics with every coach because I'm overwhelmed by every platform. I'm overwhelmed by this. Should I do this? And I always want to say, we were only told to get out there and share, educate, share. And so what you're really talking about is you are just sharing all these tidbits on what you're doing in your life and how it's changed.
Yeah, exactly. And I was doing this even as I was in grad school. So I wasn't even a nutritionist yet. It was just kind of like, let me throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And so as people started to ask, then they started asking how much I would charge. And I would say, well, how much would you pay? Because I was coming from like this corporate mindset, and really, to be honest, the confidence wasn't there because here I was, almost 50, changing careers. And in my late 40s, my kids were in high school, dealing with so much. And it's like, who am I to think that I can do this when there's so many other people who have been doing it for so much longer? So I had like built up even the confidence of what's my worth? How much should I charge? And it was a real slow process because I would be so down on myself thinking, oh, only 2 people signed up. And then a friend of mine was like, but they paid you, right? Yeah. What money did you put out? I'm like, it was a free teleseminar, so nothing really. Well, then you made money, right? I'm like, yeah.
I think that's a huge point that I would love that anybody watching who is a new coach or a coach not making money, you brought up a lot of topics. One, not having the confidence. I don't think anybody did. I didn't. I may appear confident to the world, but who doesn't compare themselves or have this self-doubt because we've never done it.
Yeah.
And the second part is, that we always don't hold on to those wins. Every person from the most successful coaches, some who were my coaches, they would always say to me, like Nisha Moodley would say, Rachel, my first workshop, 3 people showed up and all my papers flew off the place that everyone has that, but we go right away to thinking that nobody starts at that one place of confusion, infancy, lack of self-worth, or confidence,
fear.
and that we have to really compare ourselves to the stages and not be overwhelmed by the mass marketing of this person sold 100, this person made 10 grand in 3 days. Where were they at step one?
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think that, listen, even to this day, sometimes I have to remind myself, because again, our voices are always talking. It's like the angel and the devil of, I'm not where I should be and I should be further along. And then I have to just stop and pause and be like, I'm exactly where I should be, because this is providing the platform and the foundation for what's next. And you have to build before it can grow more. You know, you don't just like pour the concrete in without having the mesh net underneath it. You have to build that foundation, and then you can slowly put the rest of the structure up. It's
And test. I think even what you're saying is test in that infancy. I keep saying to coaches,
I'm still testing.
And I think that's the part that we also forget. These low cost offers, when you were even saying to somebody, well, you know, what would you pay? I mean, we evolved that to, this is my hourly rate.
Yeah.
We evolved that, and you said stress and gut. And that's really what you specialize in, the gut, and all these different ways that the body can get disrupted.
Absolutely.
When we have stress, when we have gut issues, because for you, those are your two core pillars. And I know we talked about hormones as well.
Oh my God. We could keep talking.
So for any of you guys listening, remember, start at a simple step. Start to see, just like Sharon's talked about, what are people asking you about? And I feel that most coaches, because it's so niche, which I'm all about the niche, sub-niching, ideal client. But if we make this assumption early on, what people want, sometimes it's even better to take a step back, talk about a number of different subjects, as you said, and then test to see where you have the most interaction. Would you?
Yeah, I totally agree. And also asking for feedback, always asking, you know, either having people do surveys or what did you like most? And those questions get refined as you improve, you know, because then you're realizing, oh, these are common words that everybody's saying. These are the benefits. Now you have your list of benefits, because nobody's going to buy what you have to sell. They want to buy what you're going to do for them, how you're going to make them feel, how you connect to them. They'll give you their blood if they trust you and know that you have their best interests at heart. And it has to be what the benefits are, what's the value to them. You know, even with gut testing, I was actually having a discussion with my boyfriend this weekend about this particular, the GI map that I specialize in, because now I'm working on a page with a video so that people can buy that. And this is something new, not true. I haven't done it this way, right? But it's because I've been talking to people who are like, you know, I'm interested in that. And what does that do for me? Right. So again, it's asking questions. And the more that you do it, the more that you practice, you have to be willing to fail forward and
That's
do it quickly. Is it?
I always say to myself, fail forward, accept your fail, or accept the places where you feel like something is not totally right.
Yeah.
That's throwing everything out. Really refine it. So let me just kind of recap a few things. One, it sounds like you started offline, really with friends and family and people asking you, oh my goodness, what are you doing? That is a key thing that I believe, even if a coach wants to work online, you need those offline, like you said, interactions to build confidence, also to get clarity. If you're doing it online, just like you said, you need to listen to what people are saying you. Hence, you need to get people on the phone.
Yeah.
Discovery sessions, workshops, all of these free offers that lead people to saying, I'm going to keep following this lady. I like what she has to say. Building trust to then get to the next. I want to work with you. Just like that, it happened organically so that it really flows into a process. And then now you're adding and building on this next level process because you see a direct need. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And you really hit on something that's so important, and that's the discovery call. You know, yes, time is money, but somebody may listen to you, they may have met you live, however the connection may be, but they have questions and it's personal and they're embarrassed and they just want to talk to you. Why not? If you're truly of service, it's going to pay dividends forward beyond. And I've shortened it from a half hour to like 15, 20 minutes because I've gotten better at it, right? But I'm still offering them. It's exactly.
I was just saying in my membership, my paid membership for coaches, we were talking about this because I sat there and I said, okay, I've taught launch, I've taught all these different, but if you don't know how to do a discovery call, how to explain what you do, how to close, it's very hard to do a workshop. It's very hard to do a webinar. It's very hard to do anything because that is that foundational work. And anytime I hear a coach like you say, I didn't even know where I was starting, I just started talking. It's almost like we have to go back to that intuitive part, the left side that says, oh, I'm going to save somebody the pain. What do I need to talk about every day? Just drive with my heart, drive with my passion. Don't overthink, because it's in that overthinking that we get tired. And just as you and I were talking before we started videoing, we start doing all these things marketing wise and in our business that take us away. Doesn't mean that it doesn't work, but sometimes it takes us away from this real showing up because we're spending so much time in keeping up with an Instagram profile. It's great if it works for you in converting, but if it doesn't, it's time to say, maybe I'm on the wrong platform. Really nail down that process and then optimize. So do you feel that you're kind of in that place?
Oh my God, yes. And it's so funny that you say that, because the other thing, it's not just like the Instagram, but it's all these shiny objects. You're on Facebook and you see a Facebook ad because now you've been put into somebody else's demographic and they're offering you their style of teaching and buy my program. And it's like, oh my God, this sounds like the kind of coaching I need. And oh my God, I need this and I need the supplements. And it gets so overwhelming. It's like, you know what? You like Rachel, stick with Rachel. You don't need to be with a million people. It's just trusting that where you're getting the source from.
I think that's such a great thing, because I always say it's one of the reasons that I'm not dogmatic. I'm not dogmatic. And I love how you and I keep going through back and forth with like our business. Helping a client and building and restoring our health is the same as business. There is no difference.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, I said, all these people want to do groups. I don't thrive that way. I was scared of public speaking, although no one would ever think it. But that's why I loved my medium of showing up and doing videos, because I didn't have to be in front of people. But I spent so much time working on how to pitch myself, how to talk relaxing in a relaxing way. So I always say, you have to build and structure your business just like your health. It has to work for you. And when it stops working, but no one else's blueprint or map or 5-figure X or 6-figure, it has to work for you. And a lot of people have great thriving one-on-one practices because they built that in a strategic way that worked for them. And then they started building these other offerings. If somebody is not ready to work with you one-on-one, or they want this video series like you're talking about,
right?
Because you're not in this franticness of, well, this person says XYZ. It's going to be different for everyone.
Right. And that's so important also, because like everything, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and it has to be about, like you said, what really resonates with me? What is my truest intuition saying? And is my gut healthy enough to listen? Because, you and I talk about the gut. If it's not, it doesn't matter how healthy you eat, by the way, because as we all know, with all the toxins and the air and the chemicals and everything, and you name it, we're dynamic human beings. Our bodies and our gut microbiome is constantly changing. It's never going to be perfect. But if you don't get to the root of understanding how yours is mapped out, then you're trying to build on a house of cards, because nothing is going to ring true and feel good if you're not feeling really well and understanding what triggers you and what you need for your own health and your own healing.
I love that, because I remember getting diagnosed with H. pylori, which I'm convinced I had from birth because I had an ulcer at 14. Wow. And I had Barrett's esophagus by 18, and acid reflux, and was put on Prilosec, and, you know, all these issues that started compounding. And I remember going to a myriad of different amazing practitioners, specialists, hospitals, doctors, geneticists, biochemists, you name it, there was a gamut. And everyone had a different H. pylori protocol. And they always would say to me, which is why when I started coaching, I said, I will never do this. They would say, this is exactly what you need. This has worked for every one of my clients. And I would call back very soon and say, this isn't working. And they're like, there's no way. And a big thing of what I hear with you, not only talking about the client, is you have to know this individual path. And I just said to my husband, in this day and age, even the books 20 years ago, I love you, Peter Damo, but like I was talking about that book would never be for today's world. And I'm sure there are people that disagree, but today's world is about understanding. And I know you agree, because this is the foundation of your business. Mm-hmm. Today's world is truly understanding what exact different strains. A probiotic isn't just now a probiotic.
Right.
What you need, what triggers you, just like you said, what triggers your stress, really tapping into this part and not being dogmatic in any approach, because there are so many different factors that affect us. Yeah. Which leads us to you adding, of course, this level of lab testing in your business. Can you just give us briefly, because we don't want to, I think we could talk for 24 hours, because I'm like, oh my God, microbiome, this, all these things that make me so excited.
It's like, oh my God, how geeky are we?
Well, you know, that brings me to another thing. We have to be geeky. Yeah. I always say my biggest why, and it sounds like yours was very similar, is I wanted to educate people in the way like Aviva Joram educated me during birth, postpartum, always supplying the knowledge, different options, so that she gave the power back to me. Yep. And I always think of this, you should do this. And what you're really saying is there has to be this individualized approach, because what worked for us even 3 years ago is not going to work for a toxic nation that we live in, an autoimmune nation, a chronic illness, a mystery illness.
Right, right. Yeah, it's so interesting, because everything I keep saying, oh my God, it's so interesting. You know, so the reason that I brought in the gut testing and the hormone testing was, you know, it's one thing to look at the lab work that your clients give you, and like they've gone to all the practitioners and nothing works. And then you offer these functional tests that are looking at things differently and examining, you know, at a much deeper level. And so when you combine what's happening in the brain, in the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, and then in the gut, and connecting the two, then being able to say to your clients, or for me anyway, like, here's your map, visually, especially as women, we're such visual beings, to really see it and to truly understand it in a simple way of, these are your symptoms, here's what's going on. So now you can see how it's all correlated. Here are your options. Here's what's worked for my clients. Here's what hasn't. Here's what we could do. How do you want to proceed? There are times, I'll be honest, where some of these parasites are really intense, and I'll say, listen, you need to go to the doctor. We need to work together. Absolutely. And most of the time I'm always, you know, they have to share this with their doctors anyway, because I'm not a licensed physician, but it's about a teamwork approach. So when I have a client, I actually have one right now. Oh my God, she's been on drugs since she's a kid. Yeah. And now it's like antidepressant. She's got a myriad of things. And when we did this testing, I sat down with her and her dad. So she's in her 40s. She works with her dad. And he said, oh, I don't understand why the the regular, like we've gone to every.
Why didn't we find this before?
Why didn't we find this
Yeah.
before? I'm like, because nobody is testing the way they're starting to now.
Well, they have been. I mean, I think this is such an one I want to just make sure before we even finalize this part is you bring up a really, sometimes I get a lost words. It's shocking. You bring up a really important key topic that we don't have to be the fixer of everything, and we shouldn't be.
Right.
It was one of the reasons, and I think if you're a coach and you're attracting what we call these multifaceted issues, because that was either your story, your child, maybe you're a nurse and you've been watching whatever is attracting you, you know, a person with all of these issues. I co-collaborated and I did with everyone, because I would say to somebody, you need to go work with this person and then come back to me, or we can co-work and build a team.
Yes.
Or is your doctor open to working with me? So they're in their zone of genius, and then I'm supporting you. And I think that's extremely important, because you have to have, when you come from soul, your client's best interest is always at hand. And I love when you said, you have to go do this, because that fear can set in for a lot of new coaches. I know it felt that way. Like, I'm going to lose this client. No, you're not.
I was just thinking that.
To be with you for life. I can't tell you.
Thankful.
Because they're so thankful that you had their interest.
Because you're coming from a place of love, not a place of fear.
And not a place of money mindset.
Right. And lack.
Yeah.
That is, you hit the nail on the head, I think, in general, because if our mindset if we don't shift that, then there's always going to be this feeling of anxiety and stress for our business, because we're not approaching it from a place of heart and soul.
I guarantee that same stress, because I've done a lot of work. I always say, I came to the table with a lot of stuff, not only physically, you know.
Amen, sister.
Heavy metals, C. diff, pylori, parasites, fungus, yeast. I mean, things that were happening at a very young age. Again, we go back to.
Yeah.
But I would have been 100 times worse with some major condition at 6 years old if we were in this time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that does affect us all emotionally, neurologically, physically, everything. And I always say to a coach, even if you've got to step back and not just do the emotional work with somebody to see what's going on, you get to pay that forward and bring that. So sometimes I say to a coach, don't hire a business coach, hire a coach, figure out what's going on with you.
Yeah.
So you can share this, co-partner with them.
Yeah, I really agree with you, because I met with a woman who's a chiropractor and now going into functional medicine, and we hit it off. And she works with a younger demographic. I work with, generally women over 40. And instead of being like, oh my God, you're going to take business from me, it was like, what can we do to collaborate? How can we help each other? And it becomes exciting when you realize that's all it's about. If we could get everybody on the same team and work together. And I'm so fortunate that my clients who have issues and have doctors, we talk on the phone. They want to collaborate. And on the rare occasion that I have clients whose doctors tell them that it's all in their head, then I say to them, you have to ask yourself, honestly, is that doctor serving you? And if
I feel
not,
like we're twins. I'm getting chills. I'm like, and I would never, I think that's also the beautiful thing is nobody wants to be told to. My daughter, she's my spirit animal. Like I always say, I did my job with them, and we still do, of not putting my stuff, because she's so strong-willed. And she always says, Mom, I don't like to be told what to do. If you would say it like this, hey, Sammy, it'd be really great. Here's some options. What feels right for you? And I always think to myself, we all want to be spoken that way. We want to be empowered. We want to be listened to. And I do believe that also when there's health issues on 1 to 10, no matter what, they often come from somebody pulling away our power, or we didn't feel that we could shine,
Yeah.
especially when it's gut, because we're those feelers, those perfectionists, those overthinkers. I always say, think about how you're speaking, because if you can tap, and we'll go back to even the beginning, if you can hold on to that passion and that drive of what you want to share, and you come from this place of not just love, like I love everyone, I want everyone to be happy, but really this place of what are the 10 things that I need to educate on constantly, even if you can only start with one.
Right. Now, you just hit the nail on something that's so important, and something that has been kind of like sitting in my head about how things that I want to do, your relationship with your daughter, that you have given her the space, right, to share that with you. And I think for everybody, the health coaches, family, friends, our kids are our best teachers if we allow the space to truly listen to them and give them that confidence to know that we've got their back. They can share with us, and we can learn from each other how to speak in a way that feels good. And I see so many times, just even when I'm out and about, as I'm sure you do, like how parents and children interact, and it breaks my heart, because they're our future and we're here to guide them. And imagine, all the health coaches that are out there who have kids or godkids or however, whatever it is, that can do something to help that future generation to tune in to everything and to learn to tap into what they need for their health. God knows, like, what the world will be like, because they're it.
I think that brings it to like a great closing point, is that really, if we applied that just to our one-on-one, people want to be listened to, because how many times in any health issue, no, it's just in your head. Or, oh, well, maybe you have X diagnosis. And the stress part that you keep talking about is something we all feel in the world.
Yeah.
And we've martyred through, especially as women, we martyr through life. We secret keep. All these things that we hold in. And so our gut doesn't digest, doesn't function, because one of the things that we both love about Reed and his teaching is it's all connected.
Yeah.
It isn't just, oh, blood sugar, so do this approach. This is all connected to the beautiful process of your liver, just over 500 metabolic processes, but also your stress levels, how you live, how you function, how you view yourself in the world.
Everything.
It's all a part of it. And I really, when I see coaches struggling, I always say to them, stop, just depersonalize, put yourself in your client. Are they scared? Are they scared, even though they say they want to make all these changes? Well, no, they're not going to go through your program, anything perfect, because it's a human. And that's why we coach, because a one-size-fits-all approach does not work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So can you just share with coaches, and I know that I was even like, oh my God, we're going to talk about this, your business, but I think where we've really honed in today is where to start without overwhelming yourself, how to tap into what people are asking you. So you've taken us almost step by step. What would you say to coaches who are really struggling to find out what I truly believe you tapped into intuitively because you kept listening? What would you say to a coach who's struggling? Like, how do I nail down my niche? How do I even find these clients?
Well, it's two separate things of nailing down the niche and finding the clients. So you don't really nail down the niche until you start getting out there, right? Until you start speaking, until you start asking the questions. And quite honestly, I started by going to health clubs, to going to libraries, asking if I could just, well, it started first, with in the kitchen, ask your friends, to just get some friends together. What are their questions? Ask them. What are you Googling? What are you searching on Facebook? Why are you doing this? Like, what answers are you looking for? so many times people write they're overwhelmed and confused. Start with that. And then, you know, ask them, if I were to offer whatever it is, the, you know, of those answers, would you be, you know, do you want to listen to that? And do it for free. You know what? Give, 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 give. It's okay to give. Then from there, you'll start to see a pattern of who you're attracting. Once you start to see that pattern, it's like, oh, wow, I'm getting a lot of millennials or 30s, 40s, whatever it is.
I'm getting people asking me about gut, and they're also asking about weight loss. I say to coaches still, I say, listen to the feedback.
Yes.
And don't be dogmatic. Like, well, but I want to be an XYZ coach. When people came to me for weight loss, I was like, there's nowhere on my site that talks about weight loss, but that's what they were seeing. And so I realized, how can I incorporate this into these core beliefs that I have about toxins and gut?
Yeah.
And I hear you say that exact process, and going back to, you have to show up, whether it's online or offline. You have to build trust in order for people to say, I'm going to follow her. I'm going to buy everything. I'm going to download all this process that everyone thinks just happens with one, you know, funnel or one Facebook ad. It's a process of showing up and building trust.
Right.
And nobody just says, I want to invest, you know, whether it's 97 or 650.
Right.
You know, for your one-on-one. Nobody just says, oh yeah, it'd be really great. Let me take away money from this, you know, fund, this retirement, or this, you know, what I love to do each week. They take it away because they feel that working with you is going to take them a step further.
Exactly.
And then a step further, and then a step further.
Exactly. It's all about the benefits of what they're going to get and how they're going to feel. And listen, I up until last year, I was still talking for free because I just wanted to get my message out. Now I'm getting calls to come in and I'm getting paid, and it's all because of that work. And also what's important, ask people, can I put you on my email list? Don't automatically assume that you can put anybody on your email list. Oh, that's the first way to turn people off. And if you ask for permission and you decide, I'm going to email once a week, or if that's too much, once every other week, just do that. Start doing that. And then, you know, share this with your friends. If this is of value, share it with people. Whatever it is, that's how it grows. And then going from the hourly rate, you can start increasing what you charge if you're finding, wow, all right, everybody's doing this. Or you can decide that, you know what, I'm going to make it as a VIP package, sign up for X amount of months, or you just
develop it organically.
Exactly.
And trust me, and I think a lot of coaches, similar to myself, I wanted everything perfect.
Oh my God,
we all want it mapped out. But it's the same. I had the same approach. I said, you know what? People don't know me. Why don't I start with a single session? Then I got super clear that there was one step at a single session for a certain type of person. And they often would organically upsell to, I would say, hey, you know, this has gone really great. This is what it would be like to work with me in my 30-day package in 3 months. And we would just organically say, do we want to keep going? Especially if there were so many layers. So I love that you've really mapped that out and told coaches, you know, it's okay. Like, we all start this place, because today you do have a thriving business of referrals and people who do like, know, and trust you.
And I love it, because you just want to help, and it happens, and you have to trust. You have to trust the process, trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your gut.
Now, I think as a gut person, I've always said, you know, there isn't this one magic bullet. I wish there was. I hoped for years, and for my children and for my husband. It's the same. I've always compared, you know, my health process to the business journey. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just, you have to keep saying, okay, does this feel good? Do I feel good from this? And ask yourself on that daily basis, is this robbing me blind of energy, or is this really fueling me in my health, in my business? Because as holistic entrepreneurs, there's no separation.
Oh, so great.
So can you tell everyone where they can find you? if they want to work with you, or even if they want to, check out some of the work that you're doing?
Sure. Honestly, the best place is to go to my website, Sharon Holand with 1L.com. You can opt in for my free checklist guide of symptoms that you can start tuning into yourself. I'm on Instagram, all of that stuff. Everything's on my website. So go there and get on
my One Happy Home.
my One Happy Home and get on my email list.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I love that you also mentioned that symptom checklist, because we overcomplicate what people need.
Yeah.
And somebody goes, oh my God, a checklist? Oh, I'm doing this. So I just want to thank you so much, Sharon, for being here. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
We talked about so many topics that I know coaches at all different levels, we all feel that fear. It's how we handle it, how we handle our stress, so we don't mess up our gut, and then everything goes into a hot mess zone.
Right.
In our business. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. Make sure to check out the show notes. Go and check out Sharon and her work. And if you are struggling yourself in your health journey, because guys, I was coaching and I looked like a hot mess. I was going through deep, deep layers of emotional, spiritual, physical detox and letting go for so many years, and finding that right magic blueprint for me, and then learning when to pivot. That's what Sharon has talked about. We all change, and it's learning how to pivot, not just in your health journey, but also your business. Stay tuned for the next episode, guys. And it would be good if I actually could talk, but I think I'm so excited on everything we talked about today. Welcome to Just Natural Life. All right, behind the scenes. All right, guys, take it easy, and I will talk to you guys soon.